Welcome to Playback, the podcast all about the Billboard Hot 100 and what's trending in music right now. I am singer-songwriter Nina Blue.
And I am J.Xander, singer, songwriter, and producer.
All right, starting with news items, Morgan Wallen's Last Night is just 3 more weeks away from number one, from tying the Billboard Hot 100's all-time record. It is currently in a three-way tie for second place with Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men's One Sweet Day and Luis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee's Despacito. But, it's the rendition featuring Justin Bieber, which is
Justin
not my
Bieber.
favorite. It is
Yeah.
just 3 weeks away from matching Old Town Road by Lil Nas X, featuring Billy Ray Cyrus from the all-time mark. Jay, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is like the biggest lesson that songwriters can take away from Last Night? Because I think it bears us revisiting.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about it during like episode one, but I think this is a good just look at what's happening in modern trends today anyway. So this song for me, I do enjoy this song because it's hooky. Its instrumental is hooky. I think that's missing from a lot of current pop songs nowadays. Some of them just either use like a very similar drum loop that we've heard before, or they don't really have like that main driving instrument. This one has a very distinct and memorable guitar part. It starts on the chorus basically.
Yeah,
So it doesn't waste any time getting to its main hook. It's right there. And it uses its title rather creatively. So last night is, you would expect this song to be describing the last night between two people together, but it's just the opposite of that. And every time that the chorus gets to that part, that the word last night, it kind of uses it in a smart way where it actually continues the sentence, meaning that, giving this feeling about like a relationship that just keeps dragging on, which we've either all been in that situation or we know somebody that's been in that kind of situation.
we've been the best friend. We've been the person saying hit him with your car.
Yes, we wrote a song like that. Remember, Nina? That was very much
We
hit him.
did.
Yeah, hit him with your car.
We
The
ought to revisit it,
hit him with your car. The song, the musical.
the remix,
There you go.
the musical. I think what's also, I mean, you touched on concept work with this. I mean, we were told by a professor previously that one of the best things you can do is you can hear the title of the song in each line of lyric. And I wouldn't say you can necessarily hear the title, but each line of lyric goes back to the concept. It's very hooky, it's very catchy, and it tells a story really well. Like you said, whether we relate to it directly or we've witnessed it or we've seen this rom-com playing out in front of us before. And I think what's even more addicting is it's from the male perspective, right? So that makes it like a
Yeah.
little romantic. Like women feel like, oh, Morgan Wallen is fighting for me, and like that kind of like pseudo social like way that we digest songs that, oh, this could be about me. But you're right. I mean, it's hooky. Every part of the song is hooky, and it has more than earned its spot at number one.
I do think it has. Yeah, for sure. I was also, I don't know why, like randomly, I was picturing just like how good would this song sound if like a really good R&B singer like her covered it. I feel like that would be
Oh,
really
that would be
good.
fun. And if you took the guitar hook and she plays electric, like few
Yeah.
women I've ever seen, and that would be really fun to reinvent it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like most of the gripes that people have with the song is more towards him or like the genre than it is the song itself. But I feel like sometimes you just have to
That's
look at it.
true.
You just have to look at it by itself, kind of.
There is a group of people in our industry who just hate country,
Yeah.
and they will not back down from that hatred of country. But then there's also a group of people in our industry who hate anything that is not country,
Anything else?
and they will
Yeah.
not admit it.
They're
Yeah.
like, this can't be
So it's
real
funny.
music. No.
It's funny how people kind of just stay in their own little kingdoms in this industry. But I mean, I it's it's becoming this like huge monolith of a song. Some people are talking about, oh, is it going to be knocked off? Apparently, the streams went down 11% this week, despite being number one. But I mean, I think it's still here to stay, at least for a couple more weeks. And I think it might match. match Old Town Road.
I think it'll at least match it too. And isn't that interesting
I
that
think
they're
so.
both kinda sorta country adjacent and have, like, hip hop elements too?
That is interesting. It's funny, like my mom makes this joke about because my mom is a longtime country music listener as a Latina, which is even funnier.
Oh,
But she
yeah.
loves country music. And she talks about like the heyday of country. She to her was 90s country was like Garth Brooks and George Strait and Shania Twain. But she's like, oh, this is country rap. It's crap. And that's what she calls it because she really just doesn't like certain beats overlapping like this melody. But she loves a song and she loved Old Town Road. So there is some kind of magic that is within these songs, finding like these hip hop elements and balancing them with country that unfortunately the Nelly was it Nelly and George Strait? Or no, it was Nelly and Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did not get what we wanted out of Nelly and Tim McGraw, but they started something that has
Yeah.
led to this, I feel.
Yeah, but also with this song that I forgot to touch on is that it's just generically detailed enough to where, like you said, people can relate to it. With like this, I think that's a good tip for a lot of songwriters is that sometimes we can get caught up in like too many details, too many specifics to the point where like it isolates everybody else. But a lot of what he's describing are just like universal things that people do together. So I think that also like thematically works in its favor.
That's a great point. And I tell like writers, novel writers of this all the time. Like you may find this scene really important, but does it contribute to the plot? And so you may find this line of lyric really important, but does it contribute to the plot and the concept? Like, are you still telling a story? Is it pertinent what time of day it is? It might be pertinent to you, but is it pertinent to the audience
I
kind of
always
thing? Like,
see
who is
this
your audience?
Yeah, I always see this when people are trying to describe what their characters look like or what they're wearing, and a lot of young writers go on way too long, and I'm like, I don't care what color this person's shirt is.
No one
Come on,
cares.
let's cut the fat. Let's get to the good stuff.
I do not care that it was chambray and not denim.
Right,
Like, it does not matter.
it's always chartreuse or like some weird bougie color like that, never just blue.
I am so guilty of doing that, of trying to not say like that color. And I think that stems from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat being one of my favorite musicals as a child. Did you ever listen to it?
I did not. I am not the
Anyway,
biggest
it's
fanatic of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Sir Webber.
I I kind of was for a minute and then I turned 13. But anyway, moving on to our next headline. So, looking at the Billboard Top 10, nothing has really changed. To borrow from Taylor Swift, it really has been a cruel summer of not really anything moving around. The
Mm-mm.
only new entry this week to the Billboard Hot 100 is SZA's Snooze, which you have actually done like some work unpacking.
Right. I actually had to analyze this song for a course. And it's interesting to me that it's now cracking the top 10 because it's been teetering for like a couple months now. And it's just now getting to that number 10 spot. I think it is, right? 10, somewhere up there.
Hmm.
Um
Yep, just barely entered. Yeah.
yeah, but what's interesting to me about this song is that it has a lot of big names on it associated with it, with like the producers, so like Babyface, and shout out to Leon Thomas from Victorious. He played Andre, um, and was one of the co-writers there as well. He did a cover of it that's really great, so check that out if you haven't. Um,
Oh.
yeah, but what's really interesting is that it has like a lot of people associated with it, but it's like a really simple song, and I know usually that's said as like a bad thing, but I think that it works really well in this particular song's favor. Because it is about just kind of like being kind of dreamy and, just thinking a lot about this specific person. And even the way that SZA's vocals are processed on this song, it sounds really different than everything else on the SOS album. And that really like reflects the song itself. So that just goes to show how important it is, just how you treat a vocal in a song and how that can change how we perceive it. So for any of you mixing engineers out there, just keep in mind that makes a big difference as well.
It does. I think this is actually a better song than Kill Bill. I had to analyze Kill Bill, and because of that, like really high, almost whistle tone part that plays in the background the whole time, that makes it really ominous.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually got a migraine from listening to it too many
I
times. I
forgot to
had to
say
lay
that.
down in a dark room.
Yeah, I forgot to say that.
But
I'm
I think this is
actually
actually a better
I
song.
agree. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make some people mad. I do not like Kill Bill.
I don't either.
I think that it's one of the weaker songs on SOS, and which is,
Hmm.
sad for me to say because SOS was my personal favorite album that came out last year. And I'm just like, there's so many good songs on it. Like, why are they not cracking? I think SZA even came out and said that she wasn't a big fan of that song either. But with
Yeah,
this,
or she said it wasn't her favorite on the
yeah.
album, at least.
Um, but I think with this one, it's because it's just like it's very just easy to listen to, and it's, the whole sound concept for it goes very well with what it is that the song is about, and just and conceptually it all works together very well, I think.
I love how SZA is always down to commit murder. If you look at
Oh yeah.
like the lyrics in the verses, she does offer to commit murder for this person. So I'm wondering how that plays in. SZA, we're a little bit worried about you, but this chorus is so great. It really does like draw upon that Sunday morning feeling of just laying with the person you love and like, not waking up to the alarm clock, not getting into the hustle, and just really living for the moment with that person. And you're right, like all elements of production really lean toward that kind of Sunday feeling. And
Mhm.
it's so nice to listen to that. I missed the murder line until because it's so nice to listen to that I just kept like sitting back and enjoying it. I was like, oh wait, I'm not analyzing, I'm not active listening. So I went to look up the lyrics and I was like, dang girl, why does it always come to this
There's that
with
lyric about
you?
Scarface, yeah.
Yeah,
Basically.
that's right.
Yeah. And I know a lot of
But
people accuse SZA of making like side hoe music, but this is like a sweet side hoe
a lot of
song.
people,
Yeah, this is like a
excuse
very
me,
dreamy side hoe song. I love it. It's very replayable. It's very cute.
what's funny about you saying that is actually a friend of mine. His daughter has been listening to like a lot of SZA, and he had to like sit his daughter down and be like, "Look, the music is really good, but maybe don't idolize men like this. Maybe that's not okay." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Good for you for having that talk with your daughter."
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it's so many people's favorite album of last year. It's definitely in the top three for me, and I'm glad that it's getting a little more play. I saw
For
that
sure.
she did kind of tease a music video coming out, so that's what might have led to this like jump in streams. She also talked
Ah,
about unreleased music, and I was like, I want more people to hear more of your last album. I want more people to hear more of SOS. But we'll see what happens.
yeah. You know what it is? This song feels a lot like there's this very famous cover that she did when she was just like in her bedroom, like holding the microphone like this. It was like of Glory Days and Hit Different. It was like this mashup where everything was like super reverb heavy. So I'm wondering if like people are just like obsessed with reverb nowadays on songs. So maybe that's like why this one's so pleasant to listen to.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we all want to like have a sound of silence moment where we turn on the faucet and just hear it echo through the bathroom. Maybe we all need that.
Yeah.
So Taylor Swift has announced that she is releasing the re-recording of her album 1989 on October 27th. So congratulations to all the Swifties who celebrate. I am one of you. Blank Space, in honor of this announcement, has re-entered on the Hot 100 at number 49 after this announcement. Um, I actually think 1989 is one of her best albums. It's definitely one that's performed best commercially, and I would say Blank Space is one of her better songs. It's so sophisticated in terms of concept and lyric and melody. It previously spent 7 weeks in the number one spot in the Hot 100. Um, I just want to say, we need to stop streaming this song until October 27th because we are putting money in Scooter Braun's pocket. So stop it.
Right.
In insofar as we know she does not own this, Jay, like this is a really difficult concept to explain to people who don't work in the industry of who owns the master recording and who owns like the composition of it. Um,
Right.
do you like, but Taylor Swift has really framed this in terms of bullying, and that's really been the main marketing point of this. What do you think about this whole like Scooter Braun mess and with all of her re-recordings?
Right. Okay. So that's a really good point. A lot of people just, in the mainstream, unless you work in music, you wouldn't have to know it. So that's totally understandable. So for those of you all that don't know, basically when it comes down to the money you make off of music that you're putting out into the world, there's two ways in which you get this. And it comes from the royalties you get from writing it and the royalties that come from the master recording itself. So basically, the song that you're hearing on the radio itself. So basically, this is what Scooter Braun owns. And the problem with this is that the master recording, the actual tangible recording of it, makes a lot more money than the actual composition itself. So that's why Taylor is, taking this initiative to put out these new masters for everyone to listen to. So yeah, like Nina said, maybe don't stream it right now until she, releases Taylor's version of it. And I think it's genius that she's doing this.
I love it. I love that she's standing up for herself in this
Yeah.
way. It's huge, and I just think, I didn't really have a whole lot of guilt streaming albums that weren't announced to be re-recorded. Like when I wanted to listen to 1989, I did, understanding that Scooter Braun, yes, is making money off of it. Now that it's been announced, I am on hiatus from listening to one of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
My actual favorite, number one favorite, is Folklore. I think we can wait until October 27th. The next two albums, we don't know in what order or when they're coming out, will be her debut album, which was titled Taylor Swift. That's why we refer to it as debut, and Reputation. So I feel like if your favorite song is on those albums, it's okay to stream. But once this announcement comes out, like you can wait. You can wait until October 27th. You can wait. But for now, I think that's okay. However, I did see, and this was my favorite TikTok of the week. Someone said, "Oh, so all she has left to reclaim is her name and her reputation." And I thought
But
that was the best joke I've heard.
yeah.
I can't wait though.
No,
I
I'm
do think Blank Space is worth a long revisit that you and I should go over for
yeah,
sure at one point.
I would like to cover the whole album when it comes out, honestly, because that's my favorite Taylor
Oh,
Swift album. So we could take a
is
look at it.
it?
Mm-hmm. Because you can feel Daddy Jack's influence all throughout it, which I am a Jack Antonoff
Oh,
stan
yeah,
for sure.
for sure. So moving on to another pop baddie, Charlie XCX has released her video for the iconic song off of the Barbie soundtrack, Speed Drive. Jay, how excited were you to see this video?
Very excited. I was actually I just read a review from Pitchfork about the Barbie album itself, and let me tell you, they trashed it. They hated it. They basically said that most of the songs either just didn't fit, they don't really work outside of the context of the movie itself, or they were just kind of like a skip, if you will. But the only song that they praised was Speed Drive as well. So it lets me know that it's kind of like most people's favorite, which makes me very happy.
Okay, look, a broken clock can be right twice a day, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? We did a whole episode on the Barbie
Yeah.
soundtrack. I
They
would disagree
they went
heavily with
hard.
that
I do too.
assessment.
I do too. I liked a lot of
They
the
even
songs.
trashed the Billie Eilish song.
I don't remember what they said about it, honestly.
I feel like that's such a faux pas. Like, how can you come for that song? But
I don't know. I love that song
there
too.
was a little cameo in the video that had me super excited, Jay.
Yeah. So Sam Smith made a brief appearance there, talking about a song of some kind, a mix that they're waiting to
A
listen
mix.
to release a mix. Um, and I'm excited for that because I'm just wondering like what that's gonna sound like. Just because Sam Smith, like traditionally, their sound has been, it's totally different from like where they
Mhm.
started to what it is now. So I'm just wondering,
Oh, they
like,
started with like a pseudo gospel sound.
yeah, like very John
Like,
Legend
yeah.
kind of feels. So now they're in this like pop, like super pop direction, and it feels like they're headed towards the extreme hyper pop direction now of like Charlie XCX. Like I couldn't imagine this pairing like 10 years ago or whenever it is that Sam debuted, you know?
I was about to say, if you had told me like 3 years ago that Sam Smith and Kim Petras were going to win an Oscar for their collaboration, I would have been
Grammy.
like, they'd collab. Like, I would have been shocked by it. But now, having done that, I really do see them working with a Charlie XCX, and I see it working really, really well. I'm so excited to see what they have
Yeah.
planned.
Grammy though. Even though I
It's
do
means a tease.
yeah.
Grammy.
Even though I do think Unholy is worthy of all the awards, I just, just thought I'd clarify that.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, absolutely. Yes, I was over the moon when they won. And we've talked about that before. But moving on to our next story. So, Jay, do you remember about maybe a month or two ago where Keke Palmer's boyfriend went viral for publicly shaming her for what she wore to an Usher concert after there
mhm.
was a video released online where Usher was serenading her. They were dancing a little bit close. You could tell it was just in good fun, that they were just being really playful, or at least I could tell. And he made some nasty comments about her. I don't even want to say his name. I have it written down here. I don't even care. They share
I
a
don't
6 month
either.
son, a 6 month old son together. Everyone was really happy for Kiki to be out and about, and the whole internet came out to roast this man. Like they absolutely went after him. So, come to find out, Usher has just released a new song called Boyfriend, and the video is starring Keke Palmer. Did you get a chance to watch it today?
I did, yeah. Just came out a couple hours
This
ago.
is my favorite music video that I think I've seen in years. First of all, for the backstory, and secondly, because I mean,
Yeah,
I will just watch Keke Palmer read the phone book. She's
literally.
such a delight to watch in this. Um, So the chorus lyric is somebody said that your boyfriend is looking for me, which makes it so much funnier. It's like the whole song was designed to troll this man. Um, and at one point, Kiki and Usher in these matching outfits, and she's impersonating him. What did you think of Kiki's dance moves? Because I was so impressed.
I mean, she gives it to you every time. It's like she
Every Her Usher impersonation was good.
yeah. I mean, well, there was also like a lot of TLC vibes in that video, just like
Oh yeah.
very like 90s. I loved it. I love that that type of sound is definitely making a comeback. So that artists like Usher can, step back into the spotlight. But with this whole situation,
Usher doesn't age.
no, he might be a vampire.
He might have a portrait of an old man in an attic. Like that's what might be going on.
Ah, yes. I'm trying
What
to
were you
think
gonna
of
say?
no, I'm trying to think of all the people who's just like that joke is just gonna go completely over their head. People don't read anymore. What are you? They're like, what is she talking about? Um, no, nothing. Go ahead.
There was a movie.
Oh,
There was a
that's.
movie about that reference.
Oh, you're right.
Once Upon a Time. That is so funny. Actually, going back to Taylor Swift, one of my favorite stories is someone went up to her at a bar and they were like, I saw her and I knew I only had one chance to ask a really good question. So they asked her, they were like, is this lyric inspired by such and such author? I think she said Hemingway, because I've been reading a lot of Hemingway lately, and this struck me as that. And apparently Taylor Swift got her drink and went, okay, English major, sipped it, and then walked away because she was called away by someone else. And that is the best Taylor Swift story I've ever heard. I'm
That's
sorry.
hilarious. I like that.
Back to Kiki Palmer though. At one point, this woman dead ass looks into the camera and says, "I'm a mother after all," with a wink, which references that super offensive tweet. And I think I just I think my soul left my body. I think this is the classiest clapback I've ever seen. And she literally filmed a music video to troll her ex. I know other stars do this, but there is something just there was so much poetic justice in it. I just loved it.
Well, you can't top Kiki Palmer. Like, that guy's so stupid. Why would you come after like one of the most beloved figures on the internet? Like, did you really think that you weren't gonna get roasted in like to hell and back after that? Come
My
on.
favorite were the tweets that came after that, after he was being roasted, where he like tried to defend himself, and it was like there is no defense of this.
No.
She literally just gave birth to your son, and you're going to talk about her like this when she's on like a girls' night out. And that outfit was not like scandalous at all.
No.
There's nothing scandalous about it. She looks so good. I will say, um, I want my future partner to know that if Usher ever pulls me on stage, I'm not responsible for my actions. So they were kind of like slow dancing and having a good time. But I want to say, like, no red-blooded human being can refuse Usher. I was telling my aunt this story earlier today, and she's like, "No, absolutely not." And she's in her 70s, and I started laughing super hard
That was the whole
because it's
plot.
Usher.
Yeah, that was the whole plot of a Boondocks episode. So when that happened, people were just like, "Oh, this is like The Simpsons too. Like this show actually predicts stuff as well."
I would love to see more Boondocks predictions. I think that would be great. So,
Yeah.
our next story, Olivia Rodrigo has released a new song called Bad Idea, right? And it's the second single off of her upcoming album, Guts. We have not heard the album. This definitely brought out the comedic aspect that she was talking about when I first read about what she had to say about her new album. Um, and that's about the nicest thing that I can say about this song. Jay, what did you think upon hearing it?
Yeah. Those are my thoughts on this song. It's just like I had to listen to it like 2 or 3 times because I was like, "What is?" I'm not gonna lie to y'all. When I heard it the first time, I was like, "Is this a real song? Like, or is she just like being
I
funny?"
had that reaction too.
Because I thought she was just like stringing together like a bunch of usable TikTok sounds, which is not a bad idea if that's what she was doing. Let's be real.
It's trending on TikTok right now. Like
Yeah.
I have seen so many women using that sound over and over and over again.
Well, that's funny. Well, I will say that some of the lines are pretty funny. So if that's what her goal was, she accomplished that. But like as a song itself, it's not something that I would personally have on repeat.
No, I had a hard time listening to it a couple times in a row. I feel like every time it comes on, it makes me laugh. But like it I don't know. I want like at least one melodic section. It feels like she's talking the entire song. And I wasn't like the biggest fan of that. She does have like one section where she does sing. But yeah, I don't know why it misses the mark for me. It just kind of does. And it did not even touch the Billboard Hot 100. And this is an artist who has entered at number one 3 times now. So I'm sure that was a little bit disappointing. And they are advertising it left, right, and center on Instagram and TikTok, trying to get people to use the sound, trying to push it.
Yeah. Well, this I don't know if you agree with this or you've heard this statement before, but like I've heard a lot of songwriters at some point say that a really good song, like a well-written song, will stand on its own with just like either piano, guitar, or like an acoustic instrument like that. And I don't know that I fully agree with that, but like if I were to listen to this song in that context, I just feel like it wouldn't work at all because you know,
I don't think she performs in the kind of genre that would exist outside of that rule, right? Like there are certain genres
yeah.
that like you want certain beats and stuff like that, and it is a good song. But for the most part, like the piano guitar rule is true, and she's not in a genre that works outside of that rule. And I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Cuz it's not like she's, doing EDM stuff where like the whole point is just a repetitive, kind of choppy beat that you can kind of do whatever you want with. It's like the song still I mean, her stuff is still pop rock, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, yeah, leaning a little bit more toward the rock in the song. Um, I have to say, the first two singles off of this album have not made me excited to hear the whole album. As much of a fan of Olivia Rodrigo as I am, because there are a lot of people involved in making the decision of what the singles are going to be when you first listen to an album when
Yeah.
it's first put together, and sometimes the people involved in the decision making process make the wrong choices. I would accuse the people surrounding Taylor Swift of making really poor choices, especially with like Lover and Reputation, because a lot of the songs on those albums that are like deep cuts are actually better. But ideally, what you want to do is you want to take the best songs and make them singles. And if these are the best songs, I don't know how excited I am to listen to the whole album.
Yeah, it's really sad because I really want to love Vampire because I love scary shit like that. Like anything that,
Me
kind of
too.
references any kind of Halloween type of feeling. I love that kind of song. I eat it up. But it just like
We
doesn't,
be spooky bitches.
yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know. It just, for me, there's some pretty good lines, but it just kind of drags on too long and it's just not as hooky as I would like it to be. So, I don't think it's like the worst thing I've ever heard, but I do think it could have been consolidated just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's right. Moving on to our next topic, Jay, you and I really wanted to talk about the scary scaries around, speaking of scary stuff, there's been a lot of fear mongering around artificial intelligence. Um, I think it's mostly coming from a misunderstanding of what AI really is. Like AI is just your phone's predictive text or facial recognition. There are multiple different types of AI. You and I use AI, you and I don't use AI for certain things. But like, what is your take on sort of this like fear around artificial intelligence and the music industry?
Well, I actually would wager to say that everyone uses AI to some capacity. They might not realize it. Like if you use spell check, for example, on your phone, guess what that is? It's AI. This is just like the first time ever that it's being brought to light in like a creative in like the creative field, I think. At least to like mainstream. A lot of producers and stuff already know that it exists, but we'll talk about that later. Um I think that what this is stemming from is like now people feel like AI can replace artists. And I think that that is true to a degree, but only in very certain specific formulaic genres. So in a way
Yes.
it is a little bit scary, but at the same time I'm kind of excited about that prospect because now it challenges is us to, do something different. Or at least now, you have a tool where it's like you can take that idea from AI and shape it into something else if you don't necessarily like what it generated for you. So it's just a tool like anything else, in my opinion.
It is a tool. I've actually spent a lot of time exploring artificial intelligence in the last few months because I am afraid of being left behind. Like,
Yeah.
I am that sibling that my parents go to for all of their technological issues, and I get really frustrated with them because I'm like, you have had an iPhone for 10 years at least. Why is this not intuitive for you? And so it's made me really afraid to be left behind technology wise. So I've started really exploring AI. And you and I have found some really useful tools, like as an artist, either in making music or not. But there was that really famous incident of the AI deepfake of Drake and The Weeknd. It did get taken off of TikTok and social media almost instantly, but there were a lot of people who could not tell the difference between a real Drake and The Weeknd song and this AI generated one. And I think what artists are most upset about is the lack of consent of their work
Yeah.
being fed to AI. I think that is a big issue.
Or their voice in general, which is even
Mm-hmm.
scarier if you think about it. But
So NPR ran an article recently, and I actually had to sit down with most of my family and have a talk with them. I've had a lot of safety concerns recently with AI, and we've had to establish a family safe word. If they hear my voice or we hear any of our voices calling, asking to be bailed out of a bad situation, calling, asking for money, which I mean, my voice is out there between singing, between this podcast, between like social media. It would be really easy to do. There's plenty of opportunity to replicate my voice. So there are just like some safety procedures that people can put in place with their loved ones in those regards. But it's really hard to fight for your right as an artist to have people not use your song like that. Like I saw on TikTok these two guys, they used Ava Max. They're like, oh, what if we made an Ava Max song with this AI? And it really did sound quite a lot like her.
Hmm.
And it sounded like something she would write too.
Yeah. Well, never mind. Uh, they're gonna have to make some big ruling about this at some point, where it's like I feel like it should come down to like if the artist doesn't consent to it, then it shouldn't be monetized. I'm not gonna say that like it shouldn't be out there, but I do feel like they're gonna be like, oh, you can't, you use this person's voice without consent, basically, because even if it is like chops, it's still that person essentially.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think it should be automatic 50% ownership to the artist that you're trying to replicate. I
Or
feel like
that.
that would prevent a lot of people from trying to like get a hit out of it. And so it would just be more experimental, more people like you and me like trying to use it as a songwriting tool to see what it can come up with. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to feed an artist stuff into AI and see what it gets back and just see if I can maybe write like a Demi Lovato song and pitch that to them or like something in that style of what they've been doing lately
Right.
or
That'd be
any of
cool.
the other artists that I like really admire and just it might give me a different perspective because the AI might see or hear something that I don't see or hear in terms of rhythm, in terms of harmony, just kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. Or even just as like a learning tool. Um, like say for example, your dream is to make songs like Lana Del Rey, and you put it into AI. You start to slowly figure out all the different trends so that you can learn from that and do it on your own.
Well, then you and I would be out of a job in terms of this podcast.
Oh, maybe.
So the AI that I mostly use these days is Chat GPT,
Hmm.
which there is a hilarious story of what that means in French. And I highly suggest everybody look that up because the French are having a great time with it, especially when they hear it on news stations,
Oh no.
because it sounds like Chat GPT,
Uh oh.
which apparently means cat, comma, I farted loudly.
That's very specific. Okay.
It is
Wow.
ChatGPT. So, shout out to any French listeners that we may have. I see you guys having fun with it, and now I can no longer say it without giggling.
Wow.
um, that
But I think
might have been my favorite news story
y-
recently.
yeah, but I think when it comes to Chat GPT, a lot of people have heard about it or know about it, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it. Like I feel like they'll either like look up
No.
recipes or I don't know, they'll try to get it to write essays for them or something like that. But as an artist, there's a lot more leeway to it than that. Do you want to talk about some ways that you can use it
You
there,
have to
Lena?
get Yes, you have to use it so specifically, like with your query. And you can put in really specific parameters. Like
Hmm.
I've sent you pictures of some of the parameters that I use, and my parameters are like a paragraph long. Like I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. It's way more complicated than my Starbucks order. Uh,
Hmm.
but I have used it mostly to start emails that I don't want to write. And what comes back to me is always something in a very robotic voice. It's not in my artist voice, which is something that we can talk about in more detail. But it always at least gets me started. I think a lot of the times the worst thing is looking at a long to do list and then a blank page. And this does just give me sometimes just a format.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gives me an idea of what I can include. I do always have to almost rewrite the entire thing in order for it to sound like me though and in order for me to be taken seriously.
Right. I think that goes back to like for creative people, the most dangerous thing that you can give us is a blank sheet of paper. You know what I mean? So this is kind of a nice solution to that, where it's like I use it a lot for cover letters because I was a hiring manager for a while and I know that those make a big difference, but I hate writing them. But I will,
Cover letters are the
yeah, I
worst.
will write it in the entry. I will write it in such a specific way where it's like, cover letter for this type of position for someone that just graduated with this kind of degree, with these skill sets. And it comes up with like a great template. But like Nina was saying, you never want to just copy and paste directly what it says because you're gonna look like you're gonna look like
You
this,
use ChatGPT to write
yeah, like,
something.
are you being funny? Like, that's what the employer is gonna think. Like, this person can't be real. This is a bot. I'm just bye. You got to you got to tailor it to yourself after you get a good starting point.
Yeah, it's funny how like it gives you great ideas, but it still feels very inhuman when you're reading it. Also,
Yeah.
what I've noticed is it will repeat itself so
Oh
much.
yeah.
Like it will say the same thing like five different ways. But yeah, like it does just give you a good jumping off point. I've used it to come up with rhymes while I'm writing. I give it the concept of my song and I ask for what rhymes with XYZ. Whereas I used to flip
Oh,
through a big old book
I didn't even think
to
about
try and
that.
find rhymes.
That's cool.
Now it just pops up for me and I'm like, oh, yes. Because I don't think that has anything to do with my creativity. I think that's the same as like using like
Rhyme
like
zone.
chord progressions. Yeah, it's the same as
Right.
using rhyme zone, but maybe a little more specific for me. It's just another tool. The other best part of it is asking it for to write social media posts. That
Yes.
has been excellent.
Mhm.
Because I don't know about you, Jay, but I get on to do social media for my artistry. I get on to do social media for the podcast. And every single time I get distracted, every single time
Yes,
I wind up
same.
down a rabbit hole or it takes me 10 minutes to actually get started. And with this, because I haven't even opened the app, I'm actually able to get like all of my captions and stuff done before I open the app. And then I can have a little bit of self control at least.
Yeah, exactly. You can just copy and paste most of it. I would still like tailor those to and like anything on Chat GPT. But it is like a really good starting point for that because it's like I know artists in general, a lot of us just want to like create. But the issue is, it's hard to build a following off of that if other people aren't seeing it. So when I get to that, for me, the big block is that post of like, oh, I want to post this. I'm proud of it, but I don't know what to say about it. I don't know how people are going to like judge me or whatever. About the post itself, not even like, what I made. It's really weird. So it is nice and kind of comforting to have this thing that does it for you for the most part, or at least gets you started.
I also always ask it for relevant hashtags, and that is huge.
Yes.
That has made a really big difference. Do I always use them? No, because I kind of like to search trending hashtags that might be relevant to what I'm posting. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I'll do like a bit of a mix. I won't like completely do it over, but that has been really big. I will say with TikTok captions, because mostly that affects the algorithm. I don't think a lot of people read the TikTok, like,
Well,
sorry, not the captions. What
yeah.
am I talking about? It's yeah, the summary,
The
essentially,
block of well, it's hard to
the
see.
description.
Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah,
see it there in like TikTok's format. They need to change that. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
they do. I don't think anybody actually reads that. What I think that affects is the algorithm. So I'll ask ChatGPT to like maximize it for SEO, so search engine optimization, because TikTok is essentially at this point a search engine.
Yeah,
And it's just trying to look for relevant text so that it can push it out to people who might enjoy it. At that point, I just copy and paste directly from ChatGPT. I don't even care because I
yeah,
know nobody's going to read it because you're right. It's hard to read. It's very poorly formatted.
yeah. And other just as advice for people posting, like Nina said, you want to have those hashtags not just be like a generic thing like music. You want to, tailor it in a way that people can find you, like your specific kind of music that you're making or like what you're putting out there. So that's the best way to approach that, I think.
So, ChatGPT, thank you for making the most boring parts of our jobs as artists and as podcasters so much easier. Because I will say it does make me a lot more productive. It does cut down on like my shitting around time quite a bit.
I know. Same.
So, Jay, you're much more familiar with this platform. I'm just kind of getting started with it. It's called Fader, and I am endlessly fascinated by this. It pitches itself as like DJ software, but I think it's a little bit more complicated about it. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Fader, spelled Fadr, is a really great tool. It's a website which basically allows you to take your favorite songs, upload them, and it will separate them into the different multi tracks or stems, some people call them. Uh, and they're used interchangeably, but it will separate them into the specific instruments and parts of that song for you. So this is really great for a couple of different reasons. Number one is that if you are somebody that's like super into remixing or you want to get like more into it, you can use those stems to create something totally new and create like your version of this song. If you are somebody that, for example, you want to learn more about like song structure, which is like normally what I use it for, I will go ahead and put it in there and just look at like, okay, what are all these different parts doing? Because I'm not the best instrumentalist in the world. I will say that up front. So sometimes just having a general idea of like, what is one of my favorite songs doing here, so maybe I can do something similar later on. What can I learn from that, basically? And you can upload them
Something
into.
that I have, oh,
Oh, no, you can upload them,
sorry.
download them as MP3 files as well, so you can put them into your sessions and whatnot.
I will say something that helped me most when I was really starting to learn production and really starting to like figure out how to layer tracks and what to add and what not to add was looking at what other people did and muting different tracks and muting different stems and just
Yeah,
listening to one and really isolating that. It makes a huge difference when you're first learning. And even if you don't want to produce as an artist, it's still a good idea so that you have notes for your producer so you have a better idea of what you want your song to sound like and you can be a little bit more educated when you're advocating for your own art.
yeah, that's super important. Because everything that goes into that song, from the drum part to the guitar part, that's still reflective of your vision. So you don't want to let somebody else just like dictate that for you. So that's a really good learning tool. But also, I like the way that it separates it into like the main parts of the song. So for most people, that is a good start to their own songs. Like, for example, in my sessions, I have it kind of layered in a similar way where I have like voice, drum, the lead, uh, rhythm instrument, like the main instrument hook, I guess, and then like pads. That's all you really need for most pop songs, honestly. So
That's
that's
true.
a good way to like,
And
it
that
makes it
organization
clear.
often that organization translates to mixing so nicely. It translates to the
Yeah.
mix window. Like those are really the big ones that you want to work with and kind of in that order too.
Yeah.
Especially if you get a little too weird with pads, like I have the tendency to do.
I love pads. Yeah, I use too many of them sometimes, so I get that.
So what else have you learned from Fader, or what other aspects can other artists and producers take from it?
So you can actually practice mixing from that session as well. So you can kind of see why certain parts are like way more important than they are, like why a vocal is so hot in the mix. But also you can use, I believe there's a couple other stems on there that you can just like already download and play with and get started. They also have like a lot of remixing contests. So if you got some experience under your belt, enter that and see what happens. But I also want to give like a quick shout out to one of my friends, Taisha Estrada, whose song Sunny Smiles is featured under the R&B section of Fader, like the very front page. So shout out to her. She's a great singer.
That is awesome. I can't wait to check her out. All of our listeners should too. You guys have written together, right?
Yes, we wrote a song like a couple years ago. I have to do a remix of it because it was like a while ago when my skills weren't up to par. But yeah, it was fun. She's a
Maybe you
great
can
writer
remix
as
it on
well.
Fader.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, Taisha Estrada. Um, it is such a versatile tool. I'm really excited to explore Fader a little bit more. Just what I've used it with in my own songs has been really fun. Trying to see like what comes out of sessions and stuff. And if I were to mix it differently, I never do. My producer is amazing. But I think one of the AIs that's making one of the biggest differences in the music industry is Ozone by Isotope. It's a plugin a lot of us have. I think I used Ozone Elements every single day of our grad school program.
Oh, really?
It's
Yeah.
just it just makes it so accessible to master. I just had a conversation with an engineer who's been working as an engineer. He's been in music since the 70s. I think he's been an engineer most of that time, at least since the 80s. And I asked him, I was like, have you ever gotten into mastering? He's like, no, absolutely not. And it can be a huge expense. Finding an engineer who mixes and masters can be really difficult. If you're
Yes.
an independent artist and you're trying to fund this whole thing by yourself, that makes it infinitely difficult. But like my mix engineer, he just has started using Ozone, like the big one, the good one, not the Elements one. And he's like,
Yeah.
that's it's just as good. It's good enough, right? Like you can pay a bunch of money for a master, but do you really need to? And do you have that kind of money? But it's also taught me a lot about my own mixing. I think the settings are really what's the word I'm looking for? It's really easy to use. It's well set up. You can use it as an EQ as well. I've really enjoyed working with Ozone. I think it's one of Isotope's best products in ever, probably.
Yeah.
Have you worked with it at all, Jay?
Oh yeah, I am a huge Isotope stan. So I have like their whole creative suite. So I use Nectar, Neutron, Ozone, which all come with like some type of, general AI assistant that will kind of help you get the best possible sound. But also one thing I want to kind of reiterate to people that might be afraid of, this overtaking of AI is that those programs have existed now for a couple years. And let me tell you, mixing engineers, they're not going anywhere anytime soon
Nope.
because the sounds that you get out of there generally are give you a good starting point sometimes, but mixing itself is still a creative art form. So the other creative, it might not be a performing art like singing, but I would compare it to something like cooking, where it's like, here are your ingredients, your parts, your stems. Now it's your job as the mixing engineer to present this in the best possible way. And there's some moments where just AI is not going to be able to capture what is the best like emotional response or, choice for your specific song. So something like Nectar and Neutron is a little bit more difficult to use in my opinion when you want to have those parts change. I like using Ozone a lot because at that point you've already kind of should have made those choices already in the mix, and
Yes.
Ozone is just kind of affecting the overall mix and getting it ready to play on, Spotify, Apple Music, all those platforms. That's really the goal of mastering in my opinion. What you can
Yes.
Yeah, what you can also do is, like, if you had a specific reference track, you can actually upload it into Ozone as well, and it will match those levels for you, but I don't generally like doing that only because sometimes it just, like, severely changes what I've already done too much, but it is an option that's available out there, and I think that's very cool, and like Nina was saying, yeah, you can change the EQ, you can change the width of the mix itself, you can alter the bass and kind of how that fits into everything else. So it's a very flexible tool. So I am a big fan of Ozone, especially for sure.
I love your analogy of mixing is like cooking. I think that's perfect.
Hmm.
That also leads me to my mix engineer's best joke that he ever made was that compression is like salt and butter. You always use way more than you ever tell anybody that you use.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I don't know if you were like this. When I first started out with compression, I would be really delicate with it and I would really take my time. And now I just like yank it all the way up
I do
and then I
too.
bring it back until where I want it.
I do too, and I only used to use one. And now on, like, my
Oh, and now I use like
yeah,
five.
on my vocal, I use, like on my vocal, at least, I use, like, 2 minimum, a lot of times 3. And then, like, a bunch everywhere else. And then 1 on the entire mix
Yeah.
itself because you need that. Um, but yeah, he's absolutely correct about that. That's kinda like your yeah, that's the salt of a
Well,
mix.
he was telling it in context of the story of like some guy was watching him mix and he goes, I've never seen anyone use that much compression. And he's like, I mean, it sounds good, right? He's like, the restaurant's not going to tell you how much butter and salt they put in that and why it tastes so much better than what you cook at home, but
Listen,
it's what makes it taste good, right?
listen, Gordon Ramsay uses, like, 6 tablespoons of butter to cook 1 egg. So,
One egg.
in his famous video, like, scrambled eggs, I was like, "This can't possibly be real, right?" But no, he served it, and he was like, "Yep, that's how I do it." So,
Like scrambled butter at that point. Oh my
yeah, it's
gosh.
kinda funny.
Our dear listeners, Jay and I are massive Gordon Ramsay fans. And that was
Yes.
one of the first moments that we were like, oh, we're friends.
And you know what's ironic is that if you were to serve those eggs to most people, especially most Hispanic people, they'd be like, "This is raw." Which is exactly, "This is fucking raw." Like, I can tell you, my mom would not eat those eggs. She'd be like, "What? Are you joking? Are you being funny?" Anyway, but yeah, I definitely think it is an art form. I think a lot of songwriters, especially when they're not used to mixing, they're like, What are all these buttons? What do I do? I'm so lost. I'm so
It is very
confused."
scary at first. Yeah.
Yeah, but they forget, that the mix really is the end product. Like, your song doesn't, or at least, right before mastering, but I consider that more of, for me, that is more of a science itself. Um, but that has a lot of emotional impact on how your song comes across. So makes a big difference.
It does. It does. I think there is some legitimate fear when it comes to AI as a whole. I mean, we've talked about there are just no legal protections for artists. Um, I mean, it's what SAG-AFTRA is striking over is the use of AI and wanting to scan actors' faces and pay them a day rate for it, and then earn their and own the face in perpetuity.
Right.
I will
That's
say
crazy.
once again, I wish we had as active of a union as SAG-AFTRA and as writers have. So shout out to WGA for fighting against these AI standards. I wish that our government would do something about it and kind of, set the standard for it. But unfortunately, I don't think that's top of their list of
No,
priorities.
no, I don't think they care, to be honest. Um, it's a scary thought, but I think for right now, while it's available, let's try to use it to help ourselves in any way that we can. So like Nina was saying, look at the different features of Chat GPT. Use Ozone to save yourself those couple of hundreds of dollars of mastering because it's expensive. Use Fader to look up arrangements that you're a big fan of so you can learn yourself. Do, you know, it's out there, so just take
Yeah.
advantage of it. Or even with like the Lensa trends that people were just, generating to like make hot pictures of yourself as an artist, maybe pick out one that could be an album cover or just like a post on Instagram, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people don't have money for headshots a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Like that is a big expense. As much as I love my photography, he's one of my really close friends. I can't ask him to like comp me a $350 session. Like that's just not right. Like
Yeah.
people deserve to be paid for their professionalism, but like I mean, maybe using an AI image is not a bad idea if I mean, we're really talking to the broke artists out there. We love you. We are one of you.
Yeah. We
But I
we
think the
know.
moral of the story is to lean into this fear. If you're afraid of something replacing you, learn as much about it as humanly possible because The likelihood is AI is not going to replace you. And this is actually, so my sister-in-law is a cybersecurity lawyer, and she was the one who said this. She said, AI is not going to replace you. It's going to replace people who don't learn about AI. And I thought that was quite profound.
Right. All right.
Well,
Cool.
Jay, it's about that time.
Yeah.
It is time for our final segment, our playback picks of the week. Mine this week is a song by a British artist called Not the 1975. The artist's name is Knox. And this song is such a fun pop rock song. If you like Olivia Rodrigo, if you like the 1975, if you have any kind of love for indie, and I do you mean indie is like alternative, sorry. If you have any love for like alternative rock, pop music, definitely check this out. It is a bit of a dancing trend on TikTok. I was a little attacked by the lyrics when they said vodka soda and baggy jeans using none of that art degree. I felt that. I felt that deep in
Damn.
my soul. They were describing
Drag
me.
drag
It
you.
gives we
They
all know that girl, and that girl is me.
they said we're gonna come for blood tonight. That's wild.
What's nice about that is he's British, so whoever he's speaking to probably doesn't owe thousands of dollars in debt like I
Oh
do.
man.
But
Yeah.
it gives a very like shut up and dance vibe if you remember that song. Who
I
was that
love
by?
Oh no.
Walk the Moon.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I forgot for a second.
Yes.
But yes, you're right.
That was like a huge hit a few years ago. This feels a lot more modern. It is just
Cool.
really fun to listen to. Some of the guitar parts are really, really impressive if you listen closely.
Mhm.
But the lyrics are super fun. And yeah, it's gotten me moving and dancing. And I love it. Jay, what is your playback pick of the week?
So my playback pick is actually a cover of "Running Up That Hill" by Sarah James. So she covered this song famously on uh, America's Got Talent. I think this was like a year ago, and I am still like it just lives rent free in my mind. Every couple of weeks, I will revisit it because you know, this is already a really good song, but it's just like this cover of it is just it takes it to, for me, just like a whole nother jaw-dropping level. Like even just her look in general is very FKA Twigs, who's one of my favorite artists. And I appreciate that this song like combines, new elements to the song just enough to the point where it's like tasteful. So there's like some trap hi-hats and snares in here and like a really epic bass that adds to kind of that scary feeling that the song should have. And her vocal on this song eats. Like there is not a crumb that she left behind. It's fucking incredible. Like as a voice teacher myself, I have no feedback for her. I'd just be like, keep doing what you're doing. She should be as famous as Beyonce is right now, in my opinion. I don't know what she's doing, but I hope we hear from her again.
I would probably give my right arm to write with her after hearing her voice.
Yeah,
I
same.
think when doing a cover, there's a lot of temptation to overperform it, to over sing it, and you wind
Yeah,
up kind of out singing the song. This doesn't happen at all.
very true.
She gives into those really intimate moments in the verses, and then that chorus hits and you feel it deep in your soul. So I listened to it for the first time today and I texted you. I was overcome. Like I was so emotional about it. I think another thing that modernizes it is it has some risers in it, which you
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily have heard when Kate Bush was making the song. But I mean, Sarah James, girl, what are you doing? Call us. Like,
Yeah,
I,
if you want writers
I
to
was
work with you,
speechless
I
after
will.
listening to
Yeah,
it.
for real. I'll write you something for free. That's how much I love that cover. That song. But yeah, Nina was shook, y'all. She texted me after I told her what my pick was. Like, who is this? But yeah, that is my pick.
I fall in love with someone immediately when it's like an instant Spotify follow.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even looked her up on Instagram yet, but I just immediately followed her on Spotify. I want to know immediately everything that she's doing at all times.
Yeah.
But it was incredible, Jay. Thanks for your playback pick of the week because it had me in my feels. I'm probably going to go listen to it again as soon as we finish.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jay, any final thoughts of the week?
Nope, not for me. I think we've said it all.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. Hopefully, you can tune in next week. Go out and create some good in the world. That's our episode, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.